Hi, I'm out in Topeka Santa Fe Railroad. I'm doing a quick video to show you the finished design of improvements for non-tender drive tyco steam engines. These improvements will work for DC models as well, but it's mainly designed for upgrading them to DCCM sound. So here we go. I'm gonna show you what I've made for improvements. They work so well. They're almost to the same quality as performance as modern ones, better than some. All right, here we go. This is the most recent upgrade I've found. If you put these on, it will make your Tyco engine on the tender have all-wheel pickups. I found that some of the tender pickups on some of the models are pretty reliable, and some aren't. So putting these on it will give you all-wheel pickups on the tender, which makes a pretty substantial difference by itself. This is one of the ones I haven't finished installing yet. You can kind of see what it looks like. These tender trucks are roller bearing ones, so they won't be super prototypical, but unless you look at them very closely with a magnifying glass, it'll be pretty hard to tell. Also, me personally, I'd much prefer performance on a model over having it being super prototypical. These are the tender trucks that came off of this Rio Grande Southern locomotive. As you can see, I installed one here. I haven't installed this one yet. That's because I got this one used. And this screw, and this screw, the previous owner had put some glue on for some reason. Sorry, I bumped the camera. And because of that, I was able to luckily get those two off, because I damaged the drawbar in trying to get it off. So I managed to get a new one on. But in trying to do this final one, it bent my screwdriver, which I was using vice grips to turn because of that. So I'm going to try putting some uncure on it to get it later. But for now, it works super good with just the two wheels picking up from both sides on the rear of the tender. The drive wheels, I haven't changed pickups at all. I still only pick up on the engine side. Also, if you do decide on swapping the tender wheels with those, I found these tender wheels on the tender trucks, preferably the nickel silver ones. The brass ones just don't work as well for DCC. If you're not planning on making the DCC, it would probably be okay. But I found the tender wheels that you can take these off of these trucks when you switch them. And you can pop them in here, and now you'll have extra pickups on the front truck. Because I noticed that from this model, which isn't the original truck frame, by the way. The original one stopped working, picking up power. I think I might have damaged it in the second decoder installation. I haven't been able to find an Atlantic front truck on the market right now to replace it, but it works just fine with this one for now. But like I said, you can pull the plastic ones out, gently press fit the new metal ones in, and these trucks will pick up power now after that with minimal modifications. My goal is to try and keep it as original as possible while still keeping performance improvements. As you can see, this one still has its original tender trucks. I haven't swapped them yet. I'm going to try to do that later today before the live stream. Also, I'm not sure if you can see it real well, but right here, you can see it's got the motor on it, and the motor that's ideal for converting it to DCC. That was a motor that I believe was made for the last couple years of Mantua as a company when they started to do factory DCC in their models. They had made a drop-in replacement motor that is a 5-pole can motor and works incredibly well for DCC. The current draw is super low and it can crawl incredibly. As far as engines that come with the motor from the factory, the red box air ones do. The ones with factory DCC or DCC ready, and Mantua collectibles. The only ones that I've found, I don't think it ever came with it, is the General. I don't think any version of the General ever had a upgraded motor. They do sell an upgraded motor kit you can get. It's extremely rare to find an original one, but there is a seller on eBay that makes a knockoff motor with slightly less torque, with the same size, and a 3D printed motor mount for it. Because the original one, you would replace the chassis that houses the original motor with the new one. The new one had a specially made motor mount for it. I was only with that chassis. The motors that work for pretty much all of them, except for some of the larger engines, is the MC94. That is the one that's in pretty much all of these. I think the only one I have that uses the MC90, which is used in the larger engines, is this one. I think this is the only small engine that uses the MC90. Also, as far as what I figured out for doing decoder installations on these is if you orientate your stuff just like this and do pretty good wire management, you can put sound in it with the Sugar Cube speaker 1 on either side. If you want 2, you would need to use the Tsunami TSU 200 from Soundtracks. And I found the original long-facing capacitor works the best. If you're not doing DCC, just doing the tender truck swap will improve the performance almost to the same as modern engines. So even if you're not doing DCC and don't put the capacitor and all that, it should perform just as good with just the tender truck swaps, which, by the way, are pretty easy to do. You would just have to get a screw with a slightly smaller head. A bit later in the video, I'll show you how I made that one. Also, as you can see, this one I'd sanded that down. You wouldn't normally have to do that. I had made a mistake and accidentally put this wire through here a little bit too tall, so That's why I did that. But if you put it a little lower, it'll be fine. Making it fit the coal load was the hard part because the coal load barely has any clearance. That orientation will work in, I believe, all tender designs, except for this one. This tender design normally comes with a quarter coal load. So it's about like that. I had figured out if you cut the original tender load out with a hot knife, and then I made this load, which represents a full tender load, with a piece of balsa wood that I shaped to fit in there. And then when I was shaping it, I put a smaller piece around there a little bit, a smaller piece around here, and a tiny piece on top to represent the tender being fully loaded and having a little mound in it. And I just gently set it in there, put a tiny bit of quick drying glue on both sides, and that helped. I've never been one for waiting for glue to dry, so I use a Hobbytown exclusive product, as far as I'm aware, and they do instant dry glue. Without the spray, it dries in 2 to 3 minutes. With the spray, it dries in a couple seconds. Also, when you cut that piece out, the screw that holds the tender lid on will also cut out as well. I have found, though, even without the screw holding on, the tender stays on extremely well. So, as long as you're not jerking it around, and it should be fine, which you wouldn't do anyway with a model train with how delicate and stuff they are for most of them. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to get it off. I'm going to just gently remove the lid so I can show you how the decoder is done for this style tender. As you can see, it's kind of a mess and wiring in here. I plan to rewire it a little bit later, next when it needs a replacement decoder. I was just trying to figure out how everything worked. I initially built it with the, I believe it's the next 18 decoder, the one that's drop-in compatible with Loc Sound, because that was the smallest decoder on the market for soundtracks at the time. I did not realize if you do that one, the adapter that you have to put on to hardwire it is extremely fragile and unreliable. I had done 3 of those with those decoders, and only one successfully worked at all. And that one had broken down as soon as I took it to a club member's house to show it off. Just the ride in the car had loosened the decoder plug. So I didn't realize that. And so when it loosens that plug, it'll arc on the motor leads, which will cause it to damage the motor leads on the decoder. So that is why my 12-wheeler hasn't been seen in any recent videos, because I'm in the process of ordering a new decoder for that. But as you can see, here's the Toonami TSU 100, and there's the current keeper right there. You can see the balsa wood there, where it's different colored. And this is the Sugar Cube Speaker 1, which you can only do one of those with the TSU 100. With how I've done, if you wanted, you might be able to do the smaller one here and one here. I didn't end up doing it right now because I honestly was intending to later if the sound quality wasn't good. But I'd figured out. I'm not sure you can kind of see it from here, so I generally don't without getting the wires. See, there's kind of a hole there. Oops, sorry. I can't see the camera where I'm sitting, but see, there's a hole there. That turns the whole tender shell into a baffle. So, because you know the speaker's got a baffle right here too. So, and doing that, when you close the tender shell and lid like that, having the speaker in the back, it turns the whole tender shell into a baffle, and then the sound quality from that single speaker is just as good as the ones with dual speakers. So, I mean, you could theoretically do dual speakers with it, but I don't think you would need it if you decide to do the tender this way. I'm gonna put this one back together. It is kind of a tight fit, however, so you're gonna make sure you put everything in there right when you close the tender shell. Otherwise, you risk getting some damage on some stuff. So that's just something to be aware of. Be careful when closing it and stuff. And like I said, if I redo the wiring in there at a later date, it should be a better fit. So this is the general I did. I'm gonna show you what I was done to do that. This was actually the prototype, the first one I ever did, because I bought it from someone else with DCC from him. He did the cosmetics, but originally these wheels were brass, and originally it had the original motor in it with the current keeper and stuff. I haven't opened the passenger car up yet because I intend to add these to the passenger car because right now I don't pick up power at all. And I intend to replace the speaker in there with something better, or do some slits and stuff on it so it's better sound quality. Because when I used it at home, it's fine, but if I take it to shows, I can't even hear it. So, and the General normally has plastic wheels up here, which are I'm not sure what diameter they are, but they're definitely smaller than 33s. I did find out, however, you can put the same tender wheel 33s on here, and they'll work with power pickups. That was the first performance thing I did. Then I swapped these tender wheels, nickel silver ones, and that helped quite a bit. And this one's the drop-in replacement motor and chassis, which you can use with the original parts, all except for the drive shaft. This is a custom 3D printed drive shaft. I believe it's about maybe at most 3 millimeters shorter than the original drive shaft, just tiny bit. I had tried to just shave down a tiny bit on both sides to make it work, so I could reuse the original. But unfortunately, there's a metal piece in the middle of it, and I wasn't able to get much more out of that. So that's when I made the custom one. So the only downside of that is it's pretty hard to carry it and stuff, because now you have to have 3 pieces that are permanently connected. I personally don't like plugs because I feel like if you take them out too many times, they tend to break, which is why I normally hardware stuff. But I'm sure if you wanted to, you can make a plug there between the tender and the passenger car if you so wanted to. I just never been a big fan of those. For the final thing, I'll show you what you would do to get this on. The first thing is, I'm not sure if you can see. I didn't realize when the camera. The second thing I'll do is show you what I did to get this on. The first thing, see this piece of string tubing right here? I'm not sure if you can see it there. That is a piece of string tubing I glued to the bottom of the tender. I didn't shrink it or anything because I wanted to show. I wanted it to be still loose, so when the truck pivots, the wires will pivot just a tiny bit so they don't snag or anything. And the string tubing is literally just tied up and out of the way. This one is also another piece of string tubing, which I'd put there to tie out of the way. So usually I do two, one in the middle and one towards the front. And there's two ways you can go about doing this. Since this one still has its original truck, the tender body is still hot here. So I just glued the wire to, soldered the wire to this. But if you replace both of them, the tender wire will no longer be hot at all. So you can instead wire it directly to the pickup wires for the decoder on the negative side. So my stand doesn't really do a good job of showing me from my perspective, so I'll just try and make it so you guys can see. I'm not sure if you guys can see it very well. This is an original tyco screw that I got from the body, the undercarriage of my parts donor engine, which I believe is one of the first engines I ever got. It was in horrible shape. I got it from a yard sale. I kept it as a parts donor just in case. But as you can see, the top of it is a little bit smaller than the normal tyco screw. As you can see, the hole is barely fits on this one. Is a little bigger. You can see my hairy arm. But as you can see on this one, the hole is about the same size as the new screw, so it will not fit the original tender screw. So, and you don't have to use original tyco parts if you don't want to. I just had a parts donor that was the only screw that size I had at the moment, so I used it from that. But you just have to use one about the same thread size and with a smaller head. So the final thing I did is this. This is a Katy coupler box screw from a Katy number 5, or not screw, a spring. And as you can see here, I just cut that smallest piece on the side so I can pry it open just a little bit. And then I folded the other two pieces in to act as a spacer. And I had cut the other two pieces off because I don't use them and they would cause problems. I originally figured this out on the General because the front truck of the General was a little bit too high. And that's because the drawbar was bent. I didn't have any washers at that time, so I'd custom made this piece. You could do it with a normal washer if you wanted to, but I had a huge surplus of these from doing kitty coupler upgrades when I was joining the club, so I had done that. And yeah, that's pretty much almost all the improvements I've done so far for tycos. If you do those improvements, even not worrying about the DCC stuff and just putting in these, and some of them can have the front truck improvement, some can't, but just putting in the back trucks like that should improve the performance enough to make it do really well, even on DC. So I don't think anyone else has shown stuff like that. So I wanted to make you guys aware of that and stuff because I am really proud with how it turned out. I absolutely love going to a train show and seeing people do a double take when they see a tyco performing like that. It's my favorite part to see people come back and like, wait a minute, that's not what you say it is. So that's so satisfying. I'm Ashton Topeka Santa Fe Railroad, and I'm signing off. Also, I will be doing a short a little bit later to showcase the Back to the Future car I've been making for over the past couple months. So I'll be showing off that. If you guys really enjoy this video and the video gets around 20 likes, I'll make a quick short showcase of that one too and explain how I made it. Alright, I will see you guys later. Bye.